let you guys know that I am very excited about this panel, and I'm hoping you guys are too. So, I can tell you that there are two gentlemen who will be coming out that are within earshot, so maybe we can let them know how excited we are to see this one. Let's get it started with no more announcements or anything. It's my pleasure to introduce Jeff Jensen with EW for the Visionary Panels with J.J. Abrams and Joss Whedon.
Our guests today need little introductions, and any of you in this room. Their combined fantasy worlds alone could inspire a 4-day fan convention and proverbial pop culture Mardi Gras. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Angel. Firefly. Dollhouse. Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog. Felicity. And Alias. Lost. Maybe we should just save the applause for the end. It's a really long resume. Fringe, Mission Impossible, Cloverfield, and Star Trek. These are the signature works of Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams, but their creative fingerprints have been all over the pop culture of the past 20 years, as they have contributed to all sorts of entertaining joyrides, Toy Stories, and fun time Armageddon in movies, television, and yes, even comic books. They produce, write, direct, make music, and have been known to act. And they, like you, are fans. Their work has been inspired by the passion they have for the stories of their youth, and their influences continue to inspire their current work, which is helping to lead us into the future of entertainment. Don't you think it would be cool if like J.J. Abrams and Joss Whedon like teamed up and like made a movie or a TV show? Well, they're not. But I say we bring them out here and bully them into it. Please welcome to the stage J.J. Abrams and Joss Whedon.
Yo.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
The people are excited.
Test, okay.
So you guys like know each other, right?
Yes, we do. We have met. Back in the day, on the WB, when we were doing Felicity and you were doing your spectacular shows.
Yes, we met at the parties. We think. We don't remember very well.
But we do know each other.
Yeah.
We've never met.
Have you had the opportunity to like talk to each other often, or exchange notes or anything?
Yeah, we've partied. No, we haven't. Not that hard.
We've not partied.
But we have. Yeah, we've hung out. We've had dinner, but we don't see each other that much. We seem to be kind of busy.
But I hear about you through like Drew Goddard and stuff.
Yes, Drew Goddard. This entire panel will be about Drew Goddard. He told me to say that.
Before we get into sort of like the questions, just let you know we will have time for questions from you guys. So we're going to leave that toward the end. You guys have been to Comic-Con many times. You guys are big fans of the things that you love. What's the most extreme thing that you guys have done in the name of fandom in your entire pop culture consuming life? JJ, do you want to take that one?
Most extreme thing?
Yeah. Or
I mean, when I was a kid, I would send fan letters to people that I love, but usually they were not actors or directors. They were usually like the makeup people. So like I sent letters to like Dick Smith and Tom Savini, and Dick Smith did like The Exorcist, and he was one of the greats, and he sent me the tongue from The Exorcist.
Nice.
And I was like 14, and I opened up this box, and there was a tongue, an extension with a note, handwritten note that said, "Put some peanut butter in it, stick it in," and my mom was like, "What the fuck is that?" She was so, that was mostly my fandom.
do you still have the tongue?
Oh yeah.
You do?
I did. I should have brought this up. Shit.
John?
There's no way I can top the tongue.
You have nothing better than the tongue?
No, I do have an alien egg, but I had to bury the franchise in order to get it.
When did you guys decide that you wanted to be storytellers? What was the inspiration that made you want to do what you guys do today?
I decided that JJ wanted to be a storyteller. Young lad. I always wanted to be a storyteller. There's never been any doubt. I had no idea what form that would take. I just knew I couldn't make an honest living because that sounded hard. And I just felt, I had these universes in my head. I didn't study writing, and I knew I wanted to make films. Probably that was what it was going to be. And I knew I'd create them, but I didn't really think about writing them. And then when I started to write television specs, because I actually needed to eat food and live under a roof, that's when I realized, oh my God, writing is and will always be the thing by which I define myself.
I think that for me it was when I was a kid, I was, and I guess still am, the idiot who loved to do magic tricks for my relatives. So I was just always doing things, and they would be like, oh wow, that was amazing, and try and convince me they were amazed. But it was sort of that, I guess, that feeling of creating an illusion and making people believe something was real that they didn't expect. And since I didn't really want to become a professional magician, although I'm certainly debating it still, the idea, sort of writing seems, I guess, like a filmmaking was sort of a natural progression and another option to do sort of the same thing in a different way.
Now, I just want to, not to bring up Drew Goddard again, but he and Brian Capon were having an argument about whether comic book nerds or magic nerds were more pathetic. And, where do you stand on that?
Well, I mean, the honest answer is, you can make a joke, I could say magic nerds, but I think honestly that neither are really pathetic, but I think really magic nerds. Yeah.
Well, Brian also wore a cape when he did his. Did you wear a cape?
I didn't wear a cape.
Okay, then you're cool.
And I always wanted a top hat. Never had one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of being a comic book nerd, Joss, you have...
Should we wake everyone up first?
Wake up!
No. Didn't know if we had bored you to death. So.
No, they're into it. They're totally into magic nerd stories. Joss, your superhero comics, comic books of all stripes, very important to you. And now you are now directing probably one of those eagerly anticipated superhero movies ever.
Yeah!
Is that true?
That is not an official thing. Because I think Marvel couldn't afford like a press release. So can I just make that an official thing? I'm directing the Avengers. It's just a gig,
Were the Avengers a big part of your comic book reading when you were a kid?
Yeah, they were one of the first books when George Perez was drawing them. They're on Counter Earth. This was a big deal for me, yeah. Squadron Supreme, I'm just saying.
How did the comic book things happen for you? I mean, like, how did you start falling in love with them? And
this actually, in a roundabout way, because my dad was the head writer of the Electric Company. And they were going to do Spidey. They were going to do Spidey stories. So he came home with a bunch of old Spider-Man comics when I was about 9. And, just, sure, hand your son meth. That's great. Never looked back.
And that's how the comic book love is.
So,
and what were sort of like the seminal kind of like superhero stories of your youth?
There's so many that, it would take forever. But I'm just going to go with the Avengers annual and the Thing 2-in-1 annual that Jim Starlin did with the Death Warlock.
Nice.
That was, for me, the beginning of grown-up comics. That is the most underrated, overlooked piece, I think, in the whole Marvel universe.
JJ, were you into like superhero comics at all? Is that like a big touchdown for you?
I was not as much as Josh, but I worked at a comic book store when I was a kid. One of the first jobs I had, and I was like, just 15 years old, and I got a job in this store in LA. And the first day on the job, the guy, who was a really weird dude who owned the store, I don't know what he was on, but he gave me the keys, and he's like, I'll be back, because I'll see you tomorrow. And he left. And I was like alone in the store with the keys. He didn't even tell me how to lock the door. So I kind of wanted to steal some of the older Spidey books that were there, and I didn't do it. I probably, should have done it. But so I would read books, there, and I got into it. But I was never into it as much. I was more like into the Twilight Zone and more TV and movie stuff.
At one point, you did write a script for a Superman movie. It didn't get made, but
It's very well received.
but is that a genre that you would be interested in returning to, like superheroes, or is that?
Sure, yeah, of course, sure. I'd be open to anything, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Joss, is it too early to talk about kind of like what your take is on the Avengers? Even if you could just sum it up in a line. Or?
I have to have a take.
Yeah, it's helpful when you're a director to have kind of a take on it.
Okay. It is a little early. I am still writing an outline. I'm still I'm still in that stage of reworking it. I will say that the thing that I love about it, the thing that made me excited to do it, was just how completely counterintuitive it is. It makes no sense. These people should not even be in the same room, let alone on the same team. And that, to me, is the very definition of family.
JJ, you grew up making films on the Super 8 camera. You also grew up loving the films of Steven Spielberg. And now you are making a movie called Super 8 with Steven Spielberg. And is that like a total coincidence?
Is it a coincidence?
Is that a coincidence?
It's sort of a dream come true, honestly. The strange thing, this is a weird story. When I was 16 years old, Matt Reeves Matt directed Cloverfield, and we created Felicity together. Matt and I were in a Super 8 film festival in LA, and the LA Times wrote a story about it that came out the next day, and we got a phone call that day from Steven Spielberg's assistant, who at the time was Kathy Kennedy.
Wow.
And she said, Steven made films when he was your age, and they're damaged. The splices are sort of coming off, the little tape splices. Would you guys be interested in repairing them? And Matt and I were like, yeah, we got finals, but we could probably also repair Steven Spielberg's movies. And they said, oh, great, we'll drop them off. So someone comes and drops off these two original films, Firelight and Escape to Nowhere, that Steven Spielberg made when he was a kid. And these are the original, there are no copies, these are the original movies. And it says on the film, which of course we watched them, it says written and directed by Steve Spielberg. And I was like, Matt, we must take a frame of this, we have to. He's like, no, we can't do that, they'll know. So we didn't steal it. And anyway, a lot of almost theft in my childhood. So we repaired these movies. They were shot on regular 8, not Super 8, and we like peeled off every splice and put it back on. And it was just watching these movies that he made. It was insane, and it was just so inspiring. And I had no idea why this was happening. It felt like a complete joke, because isn't there a building somewhere at Universal that's designed to house the team that restores Steven Spielberg's films that he made when he was a kid? So we repaired these movies, and they picked them up. They gave us $300, and that's when I knew why they had us do it. But anyway, so years later, this is a couple years ago, I called Steven and I said, I have an idea for a movie called Super 8, and I sort of pitched him, and he was very excited about it because I knew, having, in a weird way, worked on those movies, I had a sense of sort of what he had done when he was a kid.
What can you say about Super 8? Is this also the case a little too soon, or can you say?
I think it's way too early. I mean, I would love to, show you footage, but we haven't shot any. My favorite thing about the movie, though, is that someone, will go to the theater and see the trailer and hopefully say, oh my God, that looks bitchin', and have no idea they're starring in it. Anyway, so we're shooting in September. We haven't shot the movie yet.